another episode of Anderson Ad Break. I'm your host, Sam.
And I'm your host, Maddie. Before we get into the episode today, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all of our social media platforms. So, hi, Sam. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
You ready to talk about TikTok?
I'm ready to talk. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about TikTok. There's been so much happening in the landscape of TikTok, social media in general. How are you feeling about it as a social media manager?
Don't even know, to be perfectly honest.
We're speechless, almost.
So we are filming this on Thursday, January 23rd.
Yes.
And we are 23 days into the new year, and it has been wild when it comes to social media news.
Wild. We actually had tried filming this episode before, but just in the landscape of like with the inauguration and just everything happening on such a huge landscape, way bigger than us, we were like, let's just try filming this again, see what happens with TikTok and try to make sense of all of this like chaos kind of.
Because just after the dust kind of settled a little bit, I feel like the news has been moving a little slower.
Yeah.
Just because in the past 2 weeks, every single day was a new update with TikTok. So I'll just go over like super high level what has happened, and then we'll kind of just go from there.
Yeah.
So basically, let's just rewind to about January 10th.
Rewinding.
That's when the Supreme Court heard the oral argument from TikTok's lawyers, the content creators' lawyers, and also the government's lawyers. And then a week later, on January 17th, the Supreme Court released their opinion on the oral arguments on the TikTok ban. And it was a 9-0 decision to uphold the TikTok ban, which is wild because when is the last time the Supreme Court has all
unanimously agreed on something? Groundbreaking. Just like florals.
Florals was great. Florals was groundbreaking. TikTok later came out and said that they will be going dark on January 19th because that is the date in the law to for TikTok to go away. Yeah. And Biden, president at the time, said, don't worry about it. Like, I will not be enforcing this ban, even though he was literally the one to sign the ban. And he's like, don't worry, I'm not going to enforce it.
Snuck it in that bill. Yep.
So then basically what that meant was that he will not be fining Apple or Google if they keep TikTok in their app store. In the law, they said that they would fine up to $5,000 per person who accesses TikTok. So that can easily go like hundreds of millions of dollars. Pretty huge fine.
Big fine.
So that's why Shou Chew said, he's the CEO of TikTok. He said, okay, Biden, you're not going to enforce this ban. So I want to get that in writing. Like, tell me, you can't just say that you're not going to enforce it. I need this in writing.
Right.
So Biden did not. TikTok did not go dark on January 19th, like Shou Chew said it would. It actually went dark on January 18th, around, let's see what time this was.
It was the afternoon, right? Or no?
No, it was like later. So it was around 8:30, or it was a little after 8:30 our time. So it was around 10:30, like East Coast time. So everyone started to get this notification around between 8:30 to 9 o'clock that said, sorry, TikTok is not available right now. A law banning TikTok has been enacted in the US. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok for now. We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstall TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned. So then TikTok went away for probably a little over 12 hours.
So less than 24 hours.
Yeah, so it came back pretty fast. Yep. And when people logged back into TikTok, they got a notification that said, welcome back. Thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the US. You can continue to create, share, and discover all the things you love on TikTok. Which is wild because usually when they have messages like that, they never actually like thank presidents. They usually just say, hey, this is a law that's going on. This is why we're doing that. So
it's really interesting that they did thank a president. Just like not political, like not partisan here, just genuinely like for an app on a global, because this isn't just an app used in the United States. Like, this is a global app, right?
Also, this happened on January 19th before the inauguration, so he wasn't even president yet.
Yeah. So it's just very, I mean, I know that I believe only users in the United States got that, obviously, that message, but it's still just, I just do find it fascinating. I'm just trying to get like a huge company like TikTok thinking a president, you know, playing into like partisan politics is just very fascinating and very interesting. And I just think that's something to highlight.
So then technically, because TikTok is back now, after the inauguration, when Trump was signing all of those executive orders, one of them was to keep TikTok operating. And originally in the bill, there was a section that says up to one time can the TikTok ban be pushed back for 90 days. For some reason, Trump has pushed it back to 75 days. So TikTok can operate for 75 days. And I think the scariest part, on Monday, he said that he is looking to have the U.S. government broker a deal for 50% control of TikTok.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then as of right now, according to TikTok, if you want to break it down, so TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, was founded by Chinese entrepreneurs, and it's a privately held global company, and it's 60% owned by global institutional investors. That includes BlackRock, American, General Atlantic, Susquehanna International Group, and 20% owned by the company's founders and 20% owned by its employees, which includes 70,000 US-based employees. So it's not owned or controlled by any government or state-controlled entity. That's according to TikTok.
Okay. That's according to their website?
Yeah, that's according to them. So basically, it's like if Trump wants to have 50% of TikTok owned by the U.S. government, who's going to own it?
Who's going to own it? Yeah, that's a really good point. Just from that breakdown that you said, obviously, I'm not trying to, conquer a global platform like TikTok, but I really don't understand that approach of owning 50%. What would that actually do? Because if the concern is actually our data and our privacy, owning 50%, I don't know how much they would still own 50% of it, right? So like, what kind of solution would that be bringing? Is that just because then they would have a say to where the data potentially goes and whatnot? Okay.
Yeah. So as of right now, because of Project Texas, our data is stored here in the U.S. in Texas and Virginia. So it's here, our data is here, but because ByteDance is the parent company. So right now, I'll just tell you a little bit about China's 2017 national intelligence law states that any organization must assist or cooperate with the state intelligence work, while a separate 2014 counter-espionage law says that relevant organizations may not refuse to collect evidence for an investigation. And since ByteDance, who owns TikTok, is a Chinese company, it would likely have to abide by these rules if the Chinese authorities ask for it to turn over data. So laws and regulations are only one aspect of the Communist Party's pervasive control, and there are no legal limits on the party's powers. So that is the concern of the U.S. government, is because of China's laws with a company based in China, that there could be a potential for China to have access to our data. That's why they want to ban TikTok.
Yeah. Okay.
And then on the other side of that, what about Temu or Shein, who has actually been shown to be taking U.S. data?
Very interesting.
So they have been found to actually be using that and giving it to China's government. But yet everyone is focusing on TikTok and not all apps.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I just looked this up. In late 2022, hackers stole the personal and financial information of nearly 40 million Shein customers in a data breach. Wow. Very, very interesting. I mean, I think that's a really good point to bring up just in general. I mean, data insecurity is just, this is a huge new topic. Obviously, like since the dawn of the internet, we've always had, now privacy and data security type people. But we need cybersecurity type people. I mean, like our data, this is like a new phenomenon. I think this is like a new era of like, okay, so many millions of people are using these social platforms, not just social platforms, like you said, like, e-commerce. But yeah, I mean, now that we have these sorts of things, I think there is a bigger conversation to be had about our data and about security and about privacy. I think that is a concern. I definitely agree. I just think, like you said, it could be seen as hypocritical when, Meta has been accused of doing it. Shein, Romwe, Temu.
Well, Meta hasn't just been accused; they have done it.
And so that's what I think. That's our point that we're trying to get across. Is like, absolutely, data privacy is a concern. Absolutely, at the end of the day, yes, I want consumers should be protected, and companies should be actively trying to protect their consumers and whatnot. But it is just interesting now how TikTok has become such a, and this is what we were talking about a bit earlier, and we were a little bit like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of hard to talk about TikTok now and not talk about politics, and we were trying to steer clear of that just because that's not our thing. But yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, there's so many other websites like we've just talked about that have actually been there's proof of data breaching, because I think in the court ruling there was no proof given, at least to us, the public.
Correct.
About what proof they had that it was a potential security risk.
So the US, their proof is classified. So the only people who have seen those proof are lawmakers. So in Congress, they were briefed on what was in that classified document. And then as well as any of the courts. So like the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, those justices have seen that classified. TikTok CEO have not seen it. Their lawyers have not seen it. The US people have not seen it. Mm-hmm. And from what I've heard from like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, mm-hmm. she even said that there was no smoking gun. There was no substantial evidence. But we're just going off of what we hear, and everything that I've heard from lawyers and lawmakers is that it was all based on hypotheticals, mm-hmm. and there was nothing concrete. Mm-hmm. It was all a lot of this could happen, mm-hmm. but not a lot. But I didn't hear anything of this has happened. Mm-hmm. So our data could be given mm-hmm. to the Communist Party, but there was no proof that it has happened.
And I understand, I think from my perspective, I understand that could be a potential threat, absolutely. But it's just interesting that this is a case just on, at the moment, hypotheticals, at least to my knowledge, the public's knowledge, hypotheticals, versus there's actual companies who have been proven to be leaking data. And so, Meta, formerly Facebook, was fined a significant sum of approximately $263 million by the Irish Data Protection Commission, DPC, for a 2018 data breach that affected roughly 29 million Facebook users, exposing personal information. That's interesting to me. That's interesting to us when we were talking about TikTok. It's just, I mean, and like we said, we don't have the proof. If things, I hope they do release it. I hope they release the information. I would love to know if my data was breached to China. I would love to know.
So that is a really good point earlier when you did mention that we do need data security and privacy laws, because every other developed nation has data security and privacy laws. That is what's needed. Mm-hmm. AOC has said that she has tried to pass bills, but has not gotten any support in Congress. So instead of going after one app, we need to go after the actual problem. And we need protections, not just from foreign governments, but then also domestic, because Meta has been known to do that in the past. So I think we just need our privacy protected for everyone. And right now, Ro Khanna and Rand Paul are coming together to pass a law to stop this TikTok ban. So we'll see what happens. Because at the end of the day, what it seems like to us, not having enough evidence, is that now this is just about censorship. Because at the end of the day, if the U.S. government wants to have 50% control of an app, this sounds to me like this is more censorship. And I think Rand Paul has a really good quote. I'm going to read it right now.
Yep.
He said, "They tell you this is about China, about security, about safety, and that's all a lie. This is about control, about fear, about silencing you. A government that can ban an app can ban a book. A government that can silence a platform can silence a person. Today it's TikTok. Tomorrow it's your news. Next week it's your voice. Some politicians think that the First Amendment has fine print. It doesn't. The right to free speech doesn't come with expectations, not for apps, not for ideas, not for politicians who think they know you better than you. They don't ban speech to protect you, they ban speech to control you.
I just, and just looking holistically, just also taking just this little anecdote, taking from my personal life. Like, I used to live in Europe. I went to high school there for 4 years, whatever. My family is European, whatever. It's so funny just growing up, like hearing how the EU has so many rules and regulations, and there's so much, censorship there, right? It's just fascinating to me, just having that little anecdote in my head, like so many rules, regulations. Why is TikTok not banned in Europe then? If anyone should have, if they have so many laws about, privacy and data and stuff like that. So it's just fascinating to me if TikTok was actually a threat.
I mean, the average person, they're probably not doing anything nefarious online. Yeah. So like it's different with a government device because you actually could have classified information.
I actually do think that's smart personally. Like personally, my girlfriend is a probation officer, so she has been given a phone by the state federal government, and they can't download any of. And I honestly think that's great. You know what I mean? Like, but your work phone is for work. You deal with sensitive information. You deal with people. You should not be having like an app. You don't need to be scrolling on TikTok on your work phone if you have a personal phone. Yeah,
we can talk about alternatives. Just also, okay, because as of right now, we don't know what's going to happen in 75 days. All we know so far is that there is a chance that Trump and TikTok can work out a deal to divest, because at the end of the day, this is what this ban was about. It wasn't politicians claim that even though they voted on the ban, that they did not want to ban TikTok. They just want TikTok to divest from ByteDance. So basically, in 75 days, TikTok can either go away or they can make a deal with the government. So that is where we're at.
Wow.
So alternatives. Leading up to the TikTok ban, I don't know about you, but for me, I was getting a lot of ads for Meta on TikTok. Facebook, Instagram was trying to get users to go to their platforms, and TikTok users have just pretty much outright refused to go to those apps, and they went so far as to delete all Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. A lot of people are either going to Blue Sky, but that's more so an alternative to X, because now X is unhinged in a lot of ways. Blue Sky is a really good replacement for X. Okay. And then X is also just being banned on Reddit.
Oh, wow.
Now. Yeah. So a lot of people are moving to Reddit. So as of now, TikTok users don't really have a good alternative. They also flew to Red Note.
Yes, I remember that. That was interesting. The news cycles on that. The people are flooding to Chinese app called Red Note. Yeah, no, but I think it's interesting. Like because I believe like before the ban. Before we knew what was going to happen with the ban, it was like what it is going to replace TikTok. I was interested to see, because after Facebook had kind of died out of popularity, and then it was Instagram. After Instagram, whatever, Musical.ly, Vine, all those other things. I was interested to see what would pop up after TikTok. But what I found over the past week, like, people love TikTok so much, they don't really want to go anywhere else. They were doing it out of protest because we have free speech and we have the right to do so. But everyone's pretty much back on TikTok, I would think.
For a lot of people. A lot of people also deleted TikTok. After they got that notification when they logged back in, said, "Thank you, President Trump," a lot of people deleted the app.
Yeah.
So they're basically, I don't want to say this, but they're basically homeless. They don't have a social media home.
But yeah, I think overall, just you did a great job, Sam. Thank you for being like the lead here, the expert on this. I've learned so much from you about TikTok and just all the behind the scenes and whatnot. And you have a journalistic background, which is awesome about you, and that's why it's been so fun doing the podcast with you, because you have that insight. You know what sources to go to, and I've just learned a lot. And as for the state of TikTok, I mean, I just think it's going to be fascinating to watch the rest of this play out. I mean, like you said, we have 75 days. We'll see what happens in the next 75. But I don't know. That's my take on it. What do you have to say to wrap this up?
Thank you, Maddie. That was very sweet of you. And I love being able to just brain dump on you, because you ask really great questions, and I feel like I can just like blur everything out, and you just like comprehend.
This is a historic moment in time. And I'm grateful to be able to talk about it.
Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Anderson Ad Break.
I'm your host, Maddie.
And I'm still Sam.
Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media channels, like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And we really appreciate all your support.
And you can also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. So that could be Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Pandora.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Tune in. Anderson Ad Break is on all major platforms, so tune in wherever you get your podcasts or check out the video version of each episode on YouTube.
Like and subscribe to stay in the loop. You won't want to miss what's next.